Hello my fellow human beings. Today is going to be a case study on the LED corset, which I'm pretty sure you're all pretty sick of by now from all the photos and the little teasers and everything like that. So today is going to be, or today's video is going to be split into three parts. I'm going to have the corset side of it, so materials, construction, things like that. Then in the middle I'm going to have a set of videos which show the light behaviours in the dark, and then at the end, or the third part, I'm going to be looking at the electronic side of creating the corset and showing you how everything was put together, and if you want to make your own thing, then letting you know how I did it basically. So if you want to see that, then carry on watching, and I will also put times here or here if there's one specific part that you'd like to watch. So just keep on watching. Here we have the corset laying flat. The fashion fabric is this blue cotton, and the inside is a black cotton, and the strength layer is an English couture. The boning channels, or faux channels rather, are a silver organza, and this is where the LEDs are housed. Of course, it is made with a 5-panel pattern and then an extra panel just for the lacing and the grommets, which is how I make all my corsets because I just find that's easier to work with for me. The horizontal measurements are 28 inches for the waist, about 32, maybe 31 for the underbust here. The iliac is 38, so it's a 10-inch hip spring, and then because the bottom doesn't go down all the way to my full hip, it's about 41, 42 inches along the bottom. The busk here is about 12.5 inches. The boning on the inside is sandwiched in the seam allowances from putting these panels together, and then I've just sewn a channel over top. Pretty standard corset construction to all my other corsets, nothing new and exciting really, apart from obviously the faux boning channels on the outside made of organza. Next time I will make sure I cut out the organza a good 1.5 centimeters longer than I need it, because what I found when I was sewing the top binding on here was that the organza was kind of slipping out, especially because the LEDs make them bowl or bulge up. The organza was being pulled back through the stitching, so I'm going to make it a bit longer in future, just so I definitely have enough extra organza to cope and to not pull through. And if I open up the corset on this side, I haven't finished the other side, but this side the bottom binding isn't sewn on, it's popped on, which means if there's a problem with the electronics at all, I would need to cut these stitches, I couldn't think of the word then, cut these stitches because they're just there to keep the wires up against the bottom of the corset here. Cut the stitches and pull out, because I've sewn it in such a way that there isn't a line of stitching going across here, because obviously you stitch into the wires and you don't want that. I got this idea off Lucy from Lucy Corsetry when she made a what was it, a TARDIS inspired corset, and she also put poppers on the bottom so she could get to the lights if she needed to, which is a very, very good idea. That's it for the construction. As I said, it's a pretty standard construction method for me. Next, I will show you some footage we took of the behaviours in the dark on a field that we live next to. It was a really good night. The electronics side of the corset construction. Under this piece of foam here is basically where the magic happens. Now, I know it doesn't look very neat or very nice, but this is our Arduino. We were going to originally use a Arduino lily pad because these are kind of made for wearable electronics. Their shape and their construction is very suited to it. They are very flat. They have these kind of petals round here which you can wind conductive thread around, which is used a lot in wearable electronics because it can be used as like a normal sewing thread, but it allows electricity to pass through it. Unfortunately, these aren't very powerful, or they don't allow a lot of information through them. So every time we tried to run a behaviour with this Arduino here, it would only show us red and blue, not red and green rather, not blue. So obviously the behaviours just didn't look right. So unfortunately we had to go with a more powerful Arduino, which is this one here, but it just doesn't look as nice. But hey ho, these things happen, and obviously we wanted it to work and for our behaviours to look nice. So we had to do what we had to do basically. We have put a capacitor on it here, and we've got a connection here to the battery pack. The battery pack is in here. This is just a pouch I made. It closes with a popper, and it is just a normal, if I can get it open, battery pack which houses 3 AA batteries. And it connects to that there, and then it sits on the outside of the lacing panel and poppers on with 2 poppers attached to the top of the pouch here. And I took it out for a little night out, a sci-fi night out, and it did very well. I was just standing up chatting, then we sat down to watch some movies and it did fine. I think if it was going to be used for something more vigorous such as dancing or maybe even burlesque, then I'd have to kind of test it to see whether these poppers would hold well, or find another way of attaching it more securely to the corset or to the laces. But for the purpose that I'm using it for, just walking around basically, it is perfect. So if I pop that back in there, and then pop it close on that one, and then that's it. Now I'm going to leave the battery pack attached for a minute because next I will show you the switch that we used, and we used a switch made of conductive thread, and the actual switch is housed in the corset here in the hip, and if I turn it round you might be able to see the foam a bit better, or the shape, and it's this thing here. You can see a slight circle. Oh, bless me. So we have made it. This was a test one that we made, and if we imagine that this top layer here is our fashion fabric here, and then this bottom layer is our coutil, and on the coutil layer, or on the bottom layer, ooh, I have to find the camera now, then we have one row of stitching going this way. This is conductive thread which allows electricity to go through it, but it can be used like normal thread, which is rather nifty. And then on our top layer we have a row of stitching going in the opposite direction, and in the middle here is a hole where if you press it together it completes the circuit and allows your electricity to go around like a normal switch. And then to keep them apart at any other time we have layers of foam here in just a circle shape. They're a bit bigger in the corset just to make everything blend in, because you don't want kind of just a sticky out bit on your hip here and then not one on the other side, because it would look a bit uneven. This one, as I said, was one of our tests, and we used 3 layers, but we found it was a bit too thick and kind of wasn't comfortable to press, because you'd have to press quite hard to get them to touch. So we only used 2 layers of the foam in the actual corset, and I will show you how it works. That's why I left the battery pack attached. So if I switch the battery pack on, oh, there we go. Sometimes it takes a while and I think, oh no, I've broken something. But no, there we go. You can see it flashing away there. So all I do is, you can do it when it's on you because you have the kind of force of your hip there. You can just push it. But I like to get one finger underneath and one finger there. And all you do, as you saw, you just press and it will change behaviour. With that one though, you have a risk because it's programmed to be, the threads can touch for 0.3 seconds, I think it is, before they change the behaviour. If you do it longer, they skip a behaviour. So there it skipped a behaviour. So you have to be very quick with it. There we go, it's switched. It skipped that behaviour there, which is one of my favourites. And that's basically it. Okay, if I switch that off now, because there is footage of the behaviours and it looks so much better in the dark. It looks a bit naff in the light here. For the LEDs, we used just under 2 meters of LED strips here. These ones are about, I think it's 12 centimeters. The middle 2 are about 16 centimeters, and this one here is 17 centimeters long. We picked LEDs that had 3 LEDs every 5 centimeters, and you can cut them between each LED and then resolder them together. They are waterproof, so they have, I think it's silicone on them. So they're basically just encased in silicone, so they are waterproof. Not that I'm planning to take this out in the water anywhere, but just in case it does get wet, you're not going to worry about it ruining the LEDs. We just got those off eBay. You can get LEDs anywhere nowadays, they're pretty much everywhere. At the front here, when you do the corset up, you then have to do the connection up at the bottom like that. If you don't do that, you're only going to get lights on one side, because these two had to be connected somewhere, and we did think about maybe connecting them at the back with the battery pack, but that would have involved having to wire them from the back round and then wiring them, or having wire going back round to then connect at the back again, which was just a bit too much basically. And this way it's quite nice that it's hidden under the front. You can connect it easily. If this was commissioned for someone else, they might need some help to connect the battery pack at the back, and then to pop the battery pack onto these poppers here, just under the tying, just under the bunny ears here, because I find that's best, because you get the fall of the bunny ears sort of hides it, but then you also know where your bunny's ears are because they're on top of the battery pack. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you had any more or any questions, then feel free to pop them below. I'll also have all of my social media and all of James's social media at the bottom in the description. Feel free to visit me on any of my pages, like my Facebook or my Instagram, or have a quick look at my Etsy. I hope you all have a lovely day, and if you want to create something like this or something similar, then I'd love to see what you create. Just post it to my Facebook or my Instagram, and I hope you have a really good day. Bye!